All right, we're on the home stretch of our discussion about Saturday's Racers Grand Prix at the National Stadium in Kingston. Welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. Now, local stars impressed at the 7th staging of the event, with 7 Jamaicans winning international races, while another 3 won B races. In the night's most anticipated event, Olympic silver medalist Keshane Thompson beat compatriot Oblique Seville in the men's 100 meters. Thompson clocked 9.88 seconds to Seville's 9.97. The other winners were Tina Clayton, 10.98 in the women's 100 meters. Sharika Jackson, a season's best, 22.53 to take the women's 200 meters, while Brian Level produced a wind-assisted but still sensational 19.79 to win the men's equivalent. Olympic silver medalist Rashid Broadbell set a meet record 13.06 to win the men's 110 hurdles, while Rashawn Clark secured the 400-meter hurdles in 48.65. Wayne Pinnock, the world and Olympic silver medalist, won the long jump with 7.97 meters. The Jamaicans also impressed in the B races, with Janelle Smith logging 11.10 to take the women's 100 meters, and Sandra Davison opening his season with 10.07 to capture the men's equivalent. Jeremy Bembridge won the 400 B race in 46.08 seconds. All right, let's bring in who many are calling my sparring mate after our recent discussions on set, SportsMax.tv content editor Leighton Levy. You know, Leighton and I are the best of friends. You would never box off. Not physically, at least. Leighton, welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. How are you doing today?
Good, Ricardo. I'm very good, actually. I had a great weekend at the meet because I thought many people thought that the meet wasn't going to be spectacular because of the absence of the big stars like we saw last year. But it lived up to expectations, and I'm happy for that.
Yeah, it really was a good meet in my estimation. Let's start by talking about the men's 100 meters, with Keshane Thompson winning in 9.88 ahead of Oblique Seville 9.97. There was something interesting I heard from Keshane following the race, where he was reminding fans that it's a process, and for those who are expecting the 9.7s at this time, it doesn't happen like that. What did you think about his performance and his post-race comments?
For the time of year and the fact that the trials are 3 weeks away, I thought it was a pretty good performance. He said also that he didn't execute the race right. So, yeah, you may look at it, the World Championships are all the way in September. We're still in June. Still have August and September to go. October, no, it's September, what's my math? July and August to go. So I think he's 988 now. Is right where I think he would want to be, or where his coaches would want him to be, given that the World Championships are still 2.5 months away. Reality is it was a pretty good race. I mean, from a racing perspective and from a fan perspective, it was a good race. I thought it was very interesting. I thought the competition was good. Oblique ran 9.97, even though he got a terrible start. But you can see where in 3 weeks we should get something similar to what we saw last year at the national championships. And I think it's setting up to be quite an exciting encounter, the 100 meters, because I think in addition to Keshane, when you add Akeem Blake, and of course, I would assume a Brian Lavelle, I think when we line up at the end of the month, it will be worth the price of admission. And I think, but going back to the initial race, I thought it was a pretty solid race. There weren't too many mistakes there in terms of how he executed the race. I thought his transition looked pretty okay to me, though not perfect. His acceleration was perhaps not what he wanted, but certainly got the separation from the field that he wanted and got the win, which was important, especially coming off the Olympics last year where he was being criticized for not finishing well. I think this is the start of the process where he's finishing races, because the difference this time is that he ran through the line as opposed to easing up, which he traditionally, well, not just traditional, but certainly what he's used to doing. Now we've seen him run through the tape, which I think we'll start to see more of as the season progresses and he races a little bit more.
Yeah, Leighton, one of the things I always get whenever I listen to post-race interviews from Keshane is he tends to say this a lot, and I always wonder if it's something that plays on his mind when he's running, the fact that he finishes injury-free. And I'd love to get your take on that, you know. Especially because of the point that you just make with him, not running through the tape. Do you feel like that is a factor that always sort of holds him back?
No, not really. Maria, one of the things, when you're training as a track and field athlete, when you're getting to that optimal level of performance, your body is primed to execute well, but it's also very delicate. It doesn't take much for you to get injured. So it's not just Kishan. You hear other athletes say the same thing, that they're grateful to finish healthy. Because especially as it gets closer to the meets that matter, staying healthy is crucial if you want to be able to perform well. You might have contractual incentives that you need to meet. All these different things are important for you to stay healthy about. So it doesn't hold them back. What it does, however, when they finish an event and they're healthy, they're thankful for it, because then it means that they're able to then make that next step. I don't think it holds everybody back. I mean, I wasn't an elite sprinter at that level, but when you're training and you get to a level where you're super fit, it's a very delicate balance. We saw Clayton in 100 meters had to back up. Perhaps she felt something, and I'm hoping it's not anything serious. But your body becomes very sensitive because it's so finely tuned. And when it becomes finely tuned, you can feel everything, and it reacts, your body responds to every stimulus, negative or positive, depending on how severe the stimulus is. So I think it's just a matter of him being aware that this is an important year for him. It's a very important period for him as well. So finishing well and finishing healthy is paramount in his progression at this point of the season.
Staying on Tia Clayton for a second, because from my vantage point, I saw when she pulled up, and then the next step, I got the impression that she felt, okay, it's not that bad, let me continue through to the tape. Was that what you saw?
Kind of like that. I thought she didn't get a great start. And as she transitioned into acceleration, I think she felt something, and she decided to back up. But then again, Donald, you can't stop suddenly, because if there's an injury, you could aggravate it a lot more by stopping too suddenly. So just running through and allowing your body to actually process whatever it is and then complete is safer than stopping suddenly. It's kind of like if you're in a car and you're driving at 100 miles an hour and you stop suddenly. If you don't have on your seatbelts, you're through the windshield. It's kind of like that with injuries and athletes. So if she felt something, it would not necessarily help her to stop suddenly, because it could then make the injury more severe if there's an injury, and as a result, prolong her period of recovery. So it was more just running through and ensuring that you don't do anything unnecessary to aggravate whatever it is that may have gone wrong.
Tina Clayton, throughout her career, has seen her sister being almost like the forerunner, and then she comes into stride at the junior level. Of course, she would have won world titles at the youth level as well. How impressed were you by her 10:98 clocking, and do you see her coming into her own more at the senior level?
Yeah, well, last year she was injured, to be fair to her, and Tina made that big step to 10:86. Remember, Tina is a 10:95 athlete at her best to this point. I think what we're seeing is a healthier Tina Clayton competing now and getting back to that level where she's perhaps matching her sister in terms of performance. And they share similar DNA, so the training program, I think, will most likely reflect in terms of their progression. Now, we saw Tina Clayton get to 10:86 last year. More than likely, Tina is getting to that point this year. So that 10:98 is probably indicative of what we can expect to see in 3 weeks, when perhaps 10:86 or 10 something faster is on the cards for both of them, assuming that both are healthy. When you look at the Frederick twins, for example, from Trinidad and Tobago, if you look at their times in the 100 and 200, they're within fractions of each other. It's a twin thing, I think, because the program, their bodies respond to the program similarly. Hence, the progression that you see with one, you're likely to see with the other.
Brian Lavelle in the men's 200 meters. I don't know,
Whoa.
it was really so impressive to me. Of course, it was wind aided, but I didn't care, because his dominance over the field in that race, so impressive, especially down the home straight. His form was just brilliant, I felt. I'm wondering how you viewed it and how surprised you were, obviously not just with the time, but with the performance.
All right, here's the thing. A week ago, he ran at the the Grand Slam track in Philly, and his 200 time wasn't particularly great. But the Philly track is kind of weird if you're not used to it, and it's a long curve, and it's, athletes don't like running there. I think he ran 20.7 something. But when you looked at what he did in the 100, where he was literally closing on Kenny Bednarek and ran 10.02, you know his speed is a lot better than it was last year, for example, where he ran 9.97 and 19.97. And he ran a beautiful curve. In fact, before the race, I was talking to a couple of people at trackside, and they were asking me how I thought the race was going to unfold. I said to them, I think he and Christopher Taylor would push each other to about a 20.1. He blew every single person off of that curve away in no time flat. The last time I saw somebody do that was a few years ago, a very tall gentleman by the name of Usain Bolt. And he ran that curve really, really well, and he was pretty impressive coming home down the stretch. That 19.79 with a legal wind is about a 19.82 or 19.83. He's still a very fast time, and Ricardo and I were talking about it today. It's the fastest time that a Jamaican would have run in all conditions since Usain Bolt. Andrew Hudson ran 19.87 2022 in August, and this is faster than that. Even if you factor in a 2.0 wind, it would have been faster. So I was very impressed with the time. I think he was very impressed as well. And it speaks to the progress that he's made under Shanika Osborne, who has been working with him since he left Edwin Allen. And we've seen that progression come over the past 2 years, especially now that his body is beginning to mature. He told me after the race that he's stronger now. He's not quite sure how much stronger he is. And that, like, he and Shanika have been working on running the curve, because when he was at Edwin Allen, and even last year, he wasn't really great at running the curve. But now he seems to be a lot better at it, and it's manifesting itself in terms of the times that he's able to produce. And what I will say now is this: if he chooses to run the 100, if any of our current big three choose to sleep on that day, they could be looking at a relay spot instead of an individual spot. Because I do believe that based on what I saw, a 9.8 is possible from Brian Level in 3 weeks' time. Given the speed that he demonstrated in the first 100 and his strength and speed endurance coming home, I think he's closer now to the finished product than he ever was. And it is exciting for me personally, because since Usain Bolt, we haven't seen a consistent 200-meter runner. We're approaching almost 10 years now. And we haven't seen a consistent 200-meter runner. I think Brian Level could be that man because of what he's been able to do over the past 2 seasons, 19.97 this last year, and of course this year, a slightly winded in 19.79 suggests that his trajectory is moving in the right direction.
Yeah, so many questions, Leighton, but we will never have enough time on this show. So at this stage, it's about some quick-fired questions because we're fast running out of time. Christopher Taylor, after what you saw on Saturday, 200 or 400 for the Nationals for you?
Well, let me use his words. He said he has one more race and then he'll decide. I think he's still undecided. I think he and his coach are still undecided based on what they saw. And I think after another race, he didn't say which event he was going to be running, but he said he'd make a decision after his next race. So I think that decision is down to him, and I think we'll wait another week before we find out.
Yeah, Rashid Broadbell, has he been the most impressive Jamaican athlete this season? 13.06 meet record on Saturday.
Having raced twice, the record of 13.14 and then 13.06, what can I say? He's looking like he's ready to take on the world right now, because he didn't run a perfect race on Saturday and still ran fast and beat a seasoned Trey Cunningham, who also, I said he didn't run a great race, but then, you know, it comes down to the fact that Trey has run so many races, many more races than Rashid, and still got beaten with a very good time, 13.06 to 13.08.
Yeah, and Trey Cunningham has run 13 flat this season. Sharika Jackson went 22.53. There are those who like the trajectory, but I get the feeling that there are those who are still not convinced. Where are you along that line quickly?
I think she'll be fine. I think she and her coaches will be fine with the time. Remember, she doesn't have to qualify for the 200. So she still has 3 months ahead of her before she can get ready. For 100-meter speed, we saw that 11.04 a couple of weeks ago. I think by the time the trials run around, she'll be ready to run somewhere about 10.8 or 10.9, which puts her on the team. So I think that for the 200, 22.5 is perhaps where they'll probably be satisfied with what they saw on the weekends. It still looks a little bit short of work coming home. Her initial speed is not great yet, but I think we're beginning to see flashes of it. And I think overall, I think she'll be happy with the time and the performance.
Yeah, very much the case. All right, Leighton, we're out of time. We've got to leave it there for today, but I'm sure we'll chat again soon. Take care, man.
Take it easy, guys.
All right, no sparring today. Let's go to a break on the
All is
SportsMax
well.
Zone.
A lot of peace. Break time.